So the first instrument we're going to check out here is the Epic Trailer Kit. Now, as you can see on the keyboard, the green key at C1, this is all your samples, all your layer velocities, everything on one key. And we've also gone ahead and laid out, starting at C2, that's all your lowest velocities. C3 will be your medium, C4 medium hard, and starting at C5, the orange keys there at the top are all your hardest velocities. So we've given you, depending on how you like to work, we've given you both options within the instrument. And of course, on the bottom side of the keyboard, we have all our key switches, so you can mess around with the pitch if you'd like. But I've gone ahead and written a little MIDI sequence here, so let's check out what the Epic Trailer Kit sounds like. So that's how the instrument sounds straight out of the box. Now you can see above the waveform, there's a button there called Fast Playing. Now all this does when engaged is really tighten up that low end. It's meant for really fast passages, or in the case of a lot of composers or producers, you already have the low end of your percussion sound covered, and maybe you want to add this Epic Trailer Kit as more of a mid-range or top-end variation in your percussion sound. So let's check out what that sounds like. So that's what the Epic Trailer Kit sounds like with the Fast Playing button engaged. Again, that's just meant to tighten up the low end. But I'm going to go ahead and play the same passage again. And this time I'm going to dial in the multi-effects knob in the center of the engine. So as you could hear there, the knob is adding a lot of nice saturation, some top end, cleaning up some of that mid-range, really just acting as a polish for your sound to fit it into a final mix scenario. Now, we wanted to keep this subtle and make it very usable, just because myself as a composer, I've used a ton of libraries that have these one knob functions, and they just add far too much compression, saturation, or distortion and end up really ruining the sound. So this is subtle, but again, we wanted to make it usable, and I think to help the sounds fit into a final mix, you're going to find yourself using this knob quite a bit. But let's go ahead and move on to the next instrument, which are the 808s, and here's what some of those sound like. So not much to say here. It's standard 808. However, we did want to try and give you guys as much variety as possible, from subtle, less intrusive 808s to things that were a lot more aggressive and distorted. But let's go ahead and move on to the next instrument and check out some of the acoustic cymbals. So from left to right, we have our hats, and that comes with a closed articulation, a semi-open, and a fully open articulation, and each cymbal has 4 velocity layers. Beside the hi-hats, we have our Sabian AAX 17-inch crash, then the Zildjian Z3 17-inch crash. Beside that, we have the Paste Dark Energy 21-inch ride, and lastly is the Sabian AAX 18-inch China. and all the cymbals have been fully processed for you. They are ready to go, mix ready. I think you'll find you just throw these into the mix and they're going to sit flawlessly. But let's move on to the next instrument, which is the electronic hats. Now, of course, on the bottom side of the keyboard, we can engage some key switches to get some variety and different pitches out of our cymbals. All right, now let's go ahead and check out the junk instrument. So not too much to say here. These are just some junk sounds that we've collected. However, we did want to leave it pretty raw and organic to leave quite a bit of room for you to manipulate it within the effects engine. But let's move on to the next instrument and check out some kicks that come with Zenith. So much like the 808s, as you can hear, we wanted to give you a ton of variety in kicks, everything from clean and punchy to more distorted and mangled kicks. But next in line are all the snare drums, so let's go ahead and check those out now. So as you can hear, the snares are pretty much mix ready. They don't need a lot of processing, maybe a little bit here and there just to fit them within your mix, but they're much like all the other sounds within Zenith. We really tried to give you guys the most processed and mix ready sounds as possible. And of course, you know, we can use the key switches as well to get some really unique percussion type of sounds out of these snares. Now let's move on to the infamous Braaams sound. So we've included 2 different instruments. Each instrument has the same Braaams sounds. However, how you play the instrument is different within each one. So within the first one I'm going to show you, it's just the pitches are stretched across 2 octaves and you get a menu browser to browse through all the different Braaams that are included in Zenith. And then the second instrument is laid out in a key switch form. So depending on which workflow you like better, we've included both within Zenith. So let's check out some Braaams now. And of course, every parameter can be linked to a MIDI CC. So here I have the low pass filter linked to the mod wheel. So let's mess around with that. And also included in Zenith, we have this reverse button, and it's exactly like it sounds. The sample is going to play in reverse. So all we need to do from here is set the sample start time, and then this in conjunction with the low pass filter can really give you some unique Braaams swells. Let's check that out. And since we have the option for polyphonic and monophonic, let's go ahead and hear what the Braaams sound like in more of a chordal fashion. But now let's go ahead and browse through some of the Braaams sounds that are included within Zenith. So as you could hear there are a few Braamm patches that are more of a signature Braamm that you would use in very specific cases. They have some pitch and movement to them. However, for the most part, all the Braams are very, very playable and very usable. So that was important. But let's go ahead and check out the next instrument, which are some brass benders. Here we go. So tons of useful, rich, distorted benders in that instrument. But now let's go ahead and check out some downers. Here we go. So keeping with the theme of Zenith, as you can hear, these downers are very clean and very, very usable. But let's move on to the next instrument, which is hybrid tracers. Now, these are great for adding extra layers and extra textures to your Braams, making more of a signature Braamm sound. So something that would be used in maybe the intro of a trailer, you know, the initial impact or something that sets the stage for the rest of the track. But let's check those out now. And like I previously mentioned, these tracers sound incredible when layered in with some Braams. So let's check out what some of these tracers sound like with Braamm 3. Here we go. Again, amazing for adding extra layers and textures to things like Braams or pads or even drones. It sounds great layered in the background. But let's move on to the next instrument and check out some risers. Again, super clean, very useful riser sounds that can be used in many, many different genres. But let's move on to the next instrument in line, which is the distorted basses. Let's check those out. So as you can hear, they sound absolutely massive on their own. Of course, you can layer these in again behind Braaams or different pads and really start to create this big wall of sound. But let's go ahead and check out some more of these basses, but this time we'll use the glide function. Here we go. All right, so that's the distorted basses instrument. Now, next in line is the drones. So let's go ahead and check some of those out. Obviously, these are incredible for adding ambience and really setting the mood for an intro. But let's check out the next instrument in line, which are the hybrid pads. Here we go. So right out of the box, you can hear that these things sound incredible. You can get a ton of great inspiration just messing around with various pads. But let's load up pad 17, and I'm going to adjust the start time slightly to get rid of that swell into the sound and load a large reverb. So let's check out what that sounds like. So hopefully that gives you an idea of, with just 3 small adjustments. I changed the pad, I adjusted the start time, and then quickly added a reverb all here from the main page, and it completely changed the vibe and feel of the exact same part I was playing with the first pad. But yeah, that's the hybrid pads. Let's go ahead and check out the next instrument, which is the Tik Toks. And along the bottom, you can see in green, we have the ticks, and then over to the right, the yellow keys are the toks. We set it up this way as sort of a call and answer type of feel, but you can play these really in any order you'd like. So not too much to say here. These are just your classic Tik Tok sounds. You can also use them in maybe the chorus of your song or the climax as more of a shaker type of element to use as some top end excitement to really bring up the energy of that section. But let's move on to the next instrument, which are booms. Here we go. So as you heard there, some of the boom sounds have some whooshes before them, before the actual impact comes in. So we've gone ahead and implemented an impact button right above the waveform. And when that's engaged, that just eliminates the whoosh, because in quite a few scenarios, you don't really want that whoosh sound. And using the start knob to try and line that up is sometimes a bit tedious. So we went ahead and included this impact button. So let's check that out now. Yeah, so anything that's going to speed up the workflow, we tried our best to implement into this library. But let's go ahead and take a listen at the next instrument, which is impacts. Here we go. So tons of useful sounds in there. We tried to give you guys, again, a really good variety of heavily processed and distorted type impacts, but also some very clean and organic sounding impacts. You know, you're going to have different situations you're going to find yourself in where one's going to be better than the other. So again, we tried to give you as much variety as possible. But let's check out the next instrument, which is the infamous Whoosh Hits. Here we go. Awesome. So as you can see, much like the booms instrument, we have an impact button again. So that's just going to eliminate the whoosh part of the sound, leaving you just the impact, which is great for creating layered drums behind your maybe more organic percussion. It's going to give it that larger than life feel. It's a bit on its own. It's a little bit robotic, but when you layer it in with other patches, even like the Epic trailer kit that comes with Zenith that has multiple velocity layers, it really adds a ton of weight and size to your percussion. So let's check that out. So as you can hear, the Whoosh Hits instrument is far more versatile than just a regular whoosh hit sound. You can use it, you can engage the impact button and use it as more of a playable percussive instrument. But now let's move on to the next instrument and check out all the whooshes. Here we go. And just like every other instrument, these also have key switches on the bottom half of the keyboard. Let's hear what the whooshes sound like when we mess around with the pitch. Here we go. Last but definitely not least, we have an instrument called trailer transitions. Now, I wanted to put this together for all my trailer composers out there who I know work with very, very tight deadlines. So this is just an instrument that will give you instant access to a trailer transition, meaning instead of, manually adding a bunch of whoosh hits, a riser, a downer to some stutters, a reverse sound, etc. You can just hit a key and move on. All these trailer transitions are tempo synced, of course, to match the tempo of your track. But let's check some of those out now. Here we go.